Hi all, I have another very exciting game, and when I say that I mean that in all honesty. Tactically, this has been described as tactically amazing game of Wei Yi. This was played in the 4th Danzhou tournament in 2013, so he was already showing great talent in this particular game. He was playing against a higher rated opponent, Zhou Jianchao 2607 at the time. He kicked off with e4, and we entered into an open Sicilian, which is always a very fun battleground. Generally speaking, it's one of the more fun battlegrounds in chess, the Najdorf variation, and we get this kind of English attack system where white is playing as though he's playing against the Sicilian dragon. This construction has been found useful against other setups, not just the Sicilian dragon, and it's been used here. So we have f3, which secures the centre and stops knight g4s. Now queen d2, preparing casting queenside. This is standard against the dragon, and it's kind of being used against other systems here, against this Scheveningen centre here. Knight bd7, and we see now a very aggressive move, which is actually the top move in live book anyway, 959 games, g4. That in castles is popular. Black plays b4, and already fights against the centre, wants to put pressure on the centre. Bishop b7 and d5 are common ideas to try and open up with advantage, if at the right time, to counter-attack in the centre against white's flank attack, the classic recipe against the flank attack. Knight c e2, and for the moment, this is the top move as well, h6, so that g5 doesn't push away the knight that's lodging from central control. White castles queenside, queen c7, so we're still in well-documented book lines. There's even 86 games here with h4, and d5, 81 games. We're still well in live book position. Now usually here white plays bishop f4, that's the top move, or bishop h3 is another one, bishop g2. These are all popular choices. Less popular is e takes d5. Just for those theoretically interested, so say bishop f4, we have this continuation. It gets a bit hair-raising. There's even 14 games from here. It gets a bit crazy. But anyway, so in Wei Yi's continuation, so he plays here, e takes d5, which initially when I was playing through the game I thought was a bit counterintuitive, because it seems quite dangerous to allow knight takes d5. Isn't this just giving black what they want? Knight takes d5, hitting a very important, it seems, bishop. In an open position, the bishops you would think are more dangerous than the knights. Well, that really depends where the knights are. Are they installed near the opponent's king, for example, is an important question to balance that. Bishops versus knights, and when the centre is being blown open, as it is here, is very interesting. In fact, we see the move knight f4 here, challenging the knight on d5, and really tempting black just to snap up the dark square bishop. There might theoretically be a better response. This was played, but there might be theoretically a better idea in this, technically, with bishop c5 to follow, just to keep a sort of pin going in the centre. And this might be interesting to consider, where e6 is reinforced at the moment with the bishop, so hopefully there's no sacks, and this doesn't appear to be a major disaster for black. It might be an interesting continuation. But in the game we get knight takes e3, so black is wanting white's bishop pair, and you think, yes, although there's immediate fatal danger here after queen takes e3 with these sacks clearly in mind, black does seem to have a good response here, which he uses, queen e5, parrying the immediate threat to his king, queen d2, and now bishop c5, as though he's going to be happy castling on the king's side. Not only that, black seems to have the option, a very nice option, of exchanging off the queens after bishop takes to just get the queens off. And furthermore, if the knight moves here, black has the resource bishop e3, which is a nasty skewer, emphasizing, yes, black's the one with the dark square bishop. So any dark square disasters are usually, you'd think, for white. But a very good move here, which actually controls e3 and moves the knight. Can you guess? If I give you 5 seconds, white to play here, what does white play in this position? Okay, knight f5. It controls e3. And if takes, then we have rook e1. That will be controlling e3 again, as well as skewing the queen. So black actually just castled here. And yes, if black can survive the bishop pair, he would have good prospects. Now Wei Yi plays rook e1 in this position. Very interesting. And the queen goes back to b8. So it's keeping an eye on the f4 knight. Now, very, very interesting move. Very, very sharp and precise. Can you see what white plays here? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, the king might not be too happy after this. Knight takes g7. Yes, slicing into the king position. Now, you might think, well, what happens here exactly? Is it so easy to destroy black? If he took the knight, black actually tried b3. If he takes the knight, we have knight h5 check. Now, clearly, if the king steps back here, it's mate time with queen takes h6 and then mating on g7. But the more interesting question here is king h7. This is actually dismantled. This is just a variation of the game. But it's dismantled with check. What does black do? He would have to play f5 because he doesn't want to allow queen takes h6 under any circumstance generally. But then rook takes e6 is crushing. You know, white's crashing through here. Say knight f6, white's getting the material back and more. The king is totally compromised here. Say, for example, like this. It's a disaster. So yes, it's not a good idea basically to take that. Yes, that would spell mortal danger for black's king. So black actually plays b3 calmly, trying to get some counter pressure using his dark square bishop. And in fact, yes, this allows white the possibility of stumbling. If for example, c takes, then bishop b4 is pretty nasty as a skewer, and this really actually, for example, could mean the end of white's attack as well, with bishop f2 here, for example, in this variation, and taking it, and then there's nothing really. Okay, so taking on e6. So yes, has to be careful about b3. It does open up this skewering possibility. Now Wei Yi plays a takes b3. And we see queen b4 hitting d2 and f4. So yes, this kind of forces, well, there needs to be a precise response, c3. So allowing queen takes b3, which seems okay. b2 now, frontal pressure on b2 is coming up. And there's also things like bishop a3. So this is a bit scary for the white king. We see now knight gh5. So essentially, the white queen wants to end up on h6 here to help this knight mate on g7. That's the goal here. We see black building up though pressure on the white king. So now immediately, for example, bishop a3 is looking nasty. We see knight d3 reinforcing white's king, and simultaneously queen takes h6 is now immediately on the cards. But black throws in bishop a3 and dissuades white from queen takes h6, although it turns out that queen takes h6 might actually be even playable here. The big thing which I think must have weighed on Wei Yi's mind, sorry, pardon the puns, would have been here. He played actually rook h2, keeping the queen, protecting c3, because if we have queen takes h6, well, there's things like queen takes c3 which look really dangerous, but there's also bishop takes b2 check, which would be tearing into white's king. So actually in this position, it's not this position where it's possible for queen takes h6. Pardon me. White really needs to reinforce b2. Yes, it will be a disaster if he goes for this. Then black, is breaking white's king before white breaks black's king. Yeah, you've got to be careful. So rook h2, the art of war indicates you put yourself beyond defeat before going on to the attack. So he's putting himself beyond defeat, sort of, at least giving him enough time not to be blasted off the board before he plays queen takes h6. So here, black cannot immediately, it seems, put even greater pressure meaningfully on the white king, it seems. So bishop b7, which seems a logical move. Yeah, at least, you know, rook c8, bishop f3s. These are all pretty dangerous. And it's in this position that I meant to note, with the rook on h2 now, that actually it does seem queen takes h6 is possible. But actually king b1, again, kind of maybe trying to strengthen the position, was played. But queen takes h6, and this requires precise calculation, does seem technically possible, even though queen takes c3 looks very dangerous. This position, which looks intensely dangerous, might actually be good for white after check. Rook takes b2. Yeah, this sort of thing, where white is actually holding things together with advantage. So yeah, but king b1 was played on the safety conscious side of things, away from this queen takes c3 with check at least. But we kind of get the same sort of thing. Bishop takes f3 anyway. We get the same sort of thing after queen takes h6. We get queen takes c3 here, because it actually, as well as putting more pressure, it protects g7 against the g7 mate. But alas, there's a crushing move in this position, which Wei Yi uses. And yeah, there's no immediate way, it seems, for black to either mate or defend this after this next move. So this is at move 27. Can you guess the crushing blow which encourages black to resign here? If I give you 5 seconds starting from now. White play. Okay, it's rook e5, interrupting the protection of g7. And yeah, there's no way, it seems, to blast through to the king, to the white king either. If we just turn on the Kibitzer here, say rook takes b2, rook takes b2, then what? There's nothing. What is there for black to do here? Nothing. There's nothing going on. Knight takes, we just mate on g7. That's the idea of the interruption tactic, or even knight f6 as an alternative for checkmate, by the way. But yeah, rook e5 is an absolute killer. There's nothing, it seems, black is doing here. White did put himself beyond defeat before playing that queen h6 move, and then it's all over. Bother shouting. So yes, rook e5, final interruption tactic. So Wei Yi was already showing he was dangerous back in 2013. This was against the 2600 opponent back in 2013, 2 years ago. So it was like 14 something at the time. So amazing tactical strength, Tao-like in some games for sure. I think this is one of his more Tao-like games, but he's got other hats too to his repertoire as well. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that one. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.